What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the reveal of number 10 in my power rankings, a deep dive into the San Francisco 49ers. Real quick, make sure you are following me on Twitter. That's at TFG_football. Football season as of this recording starts tonight. I can't react to everything live on YouTube, so that is what Twitter is for. And then make sure you're liking these videos as we go. That really helps me out, attract more viewers, and all that good stuff. So let's get into it here. The San Francisco Jimmy G's. Lots to talk about here, a lot of hype here. So we're going to get right into the positional rankings. Obviously, a lot of pieces to talk about here, some under the radar guys to keep an eye on, maybe some more important role players to keep an eye on as well. But with the Niners at number 10, you don't rank the Niners this high if you are not planting your flag on Jimmy Garoppolo for 2018, and that is exactly what I'm doing here with the 49ers coming in at 8th in the NFL at quarterback. So I am all in on Jimmy Garoppolo already as a top 10 quarterback, an elite quarterback, someone that can elevate the play of those around him and transcend scheme. And depending on the regression that we see from some of these older guys in the league, Drew Brees, Rivers, Roethlisberger, Brady, I think it's more likely than not that Jimmy ends the season as a consensus top 5 quarterback. So I'm on a good run with big takes on quarterbacks. We called Cam overrated after his MVP season. Last year, we called Matt Ryan overrated. We said Carson Wentz was a top 10 quarterback when most people had him in the 20s. We also said Dak was overrated. This year, we're putting Jimmy G right up there. We'll see how it all plays out. Why am I so high on him? Well, let's break down what I've been doing for all these quarterbacks, is talking about my 5 traits that I look at to see if a quarterback can be elite, because it's great to be Andy Dalton, but at the end of the day, it's really hard to win a Super Bowl if your quarterback isn't elevating the play of those around him and dictating things to the other team, which I think Jimmy can do. So my traits starting at number 1 is the C-ball, hit ball arm, the ability to put the ball wherever the quarterback wants, whenever, whether he's rolling out or flat-footed. Now, he doesn't have a top 5 arm per se, like a Rodgers or Stafford, but he's actually pretty similar to Tom Brady, I would say, in terms of arm talent, who has been able to have this trait through fundamentals and instincts. So I think Jimmy definitely is closer to having this trait than not. He's also very accurate throwing on the run. And then you look at the number 2 trait, which there's really no reason to think he can't do this because we've seen flashes of it. The ability to throw guys open. We're talking about that high-end accuracy, those wow, how did he make that pass? Only his receiver had a chance to catch that one type of throws. I do want to see Jimmy rein in some of those errant throws, like I said about Wentz going into this last season. And he did a really good job of that, so really no reason to think Jimmy can't have this trait by the end of the year or just entering the year in general. But then you look at traits 3 and 4, and this is where I get blown away by Jimmy Garoppolo. And this is pre-snap play recognition. Number 3, knowing where to go with the ball kind of before it's even snapped. And number 4 is not getting trapped by what you saw from number 3 and being able to react to disguised looks and different things that can obviously happen in the heat of the moment. And based on the tape that we have from him, I mean, seriously, guys, Jimmy Garoppolo is already, in my opinion, top 5 in regards to this. It is very rare to have both of these traits. I mean, you look at the guys that do, they're all in this top 10 list. All starts with Brady, but in any order, you got Rodgers, Brees, Rivers, Roethlisberger. All these guys have traits 3 and 4, as I just described. The only guy outside of the elite group that has these, I would say, is Alex Smith. Just doesn't have the physical traits to get up there and dominate things. You could make an argument for Matt Ryan, but I would actually argue that Matt Ryan does not have the 4th trait, which is the post-snap processor. I think he makes a lot of poor decisions under duress, but he is very good pre-snap at knowing where the ball needs to go. And you just look at the other high upside quarterbacks that we've done this same breakdown for with these traits. Patrick Mahomes, Mitch Trubisky, a lot of these rookies. Well, a lot of it is they've definitely got the potential. They've got the good arm. They've got the mobility, which is my 5th trait. But huge question marks when it comes to traits 3 and 4 with the play recognition, reading defenses, and getting rid of the ball quickly. We've got plenty of tape that shows us that Jimmy Garoppolo can do this at a very high level. So you can be scared of the small sample size. For me, I see a guy that stepped into a new team, a team that was really bad, looking at a number 1 overall pick before he got there, stepping in, playing almost immediately because of an injury, having to play a new scheme, And he didn't even have a training camp to get familiar with these guys. So now he's got the whole offseason as the guy, second year in the system, and he's going to be so comfortable. He's going to look so good in this regard, and just getting rid of the ball quick, reading defenses, being on the same page with his receivers. So I love this element of Jimmy's game. And then number 5, we won't spend too much time on it, is mobility. Not just having the physical speed to get out of the pocket, but having the know-how to manipulate the pocket and use your legs to open up third, fourth reads on plays. And he's very good at this. He definitely has this trait. Probably not top 5, but he definitely uses his legs to transcend what's going on around him. So we've really hit in on Jimmy. Obviously, I'm high on him. So let's now transition and talk about the rest of the roster and kind of what we can expect here, eventually getting into the schedule and the win prediction here. So moving on to running back, Jerick McKinnon. Look, this reminds me a lot of when the Texans signed Lamar Miller. The physical allure of that speed. Not the best runner of the football. I do think Jerick offers a little more as a receiver. He's a little thicker, probably a little more durable. I do think he's going to be incredibly active in the receiving game. So for fantasy PPR leagues, I really like him, but I'm not expecting too much from him as a runner of the football. I don't even think he's going to get to 1,000 yards here. Could prove me wrong, but I do see him catching 60, 70 balls, and at times having really big games this year when he can spring those big runs. Then you got Matt Breida there. He's kind of a placeholder for me. I do think he'll be involved here. And then Joe Williams, I was never really high on, but you would think is actually going to see some opportunity here just because there's not a whole lot in front of him. You got Jeremy McNichols, a guy a lot of people liked coming out of Boise State, who gets instantly released by Tampa Bay. So that alone is concerning, but I really don't think there's a lot of talent in this running back room. The 49ers coming in 29th at this position. Personally, I would have kept Carlos Hyde, rode him out, and then try to get another rookie in here or something to be the future running back, because I just don't really love what they have here. Maybe Jerick McKinnon makes me look bad, but I don't know. Hey guys, real quick, you can now get my full 2018 fantasy draft guide to help you win your draft and dominate your league. We're talking tier-based position ranks, risk assessment, and stat projections for over 200 players. There are 2 ways to get this little piece of magic. 1, become a $5 contributor on Patreon. 2, send $10 and your email via PayPal. Both links are in the description. Thanks, back to the video. And then you go to the wide receiving core, and this is a really interesting group. So you start with Pierre Garçon. Now, he's 31, coming off a significant injury. I'm actually projecting him to have a bit of a down year compared to, I think a lot of people expect him to be the number 1 guy here with Jimmy. But I actually think it's going to be Marcus Goodwin, who was the number 1 guy here. His second Jimmy got here. He's explosive. He's better catching the ball than you would think. He's a better route runner than you would think. As a former track star who just never really had it going in terms of consistency in Buffalo, but he was really consistent last year, and he's going to be a really good deep threat and a catch and run guy, can work in the intermediate game. So I like Marcus Goodwin this year. Definitely the wide receiver here that I want. Looking at my fantasy draft board, he's like 20 spots higher for me. So I'm kind of planting my flag on Marcus Goodwin this year. And a lot of that has to do with the surrounding talent here, because on the outside, I don't see a whole lot. Now they got Trent Taylor. Should be the starting slot receiver. They draft Dante Pettis in the 2nd round. Now, my comparison for Dante Pettis was Willie Snead, and I still stand by that, but there's a world where Willie Snead becomes a really good short to intermediate receiver, and I think that could be Dante Pettis. He is a very precise route runner. I think could be on the same page with Jimmy and be a really good, 3rd down target especially, but could be a 70, 80 catch a season guy down the road. They did spend a 2nd round pick on him, so I'd expect him to get acclimated and get used here, especially if Pierre Garçon's kind of dropping off like I think he might. And then you got Aldrick Robinson, Kendrick Bourne, Aaron Burbridge, Victor Bolden. Not a whole lot you're excited about here. They draft Richie James, kind of a kick returner guy in the 7th round. But this is definitely going to be a position they need to address. And then you look at tight end. I'm a big fan of George Kittle. I don't know if he's ever going to be an elite tight end. I really liked him coming out. He's deceptively fast and has good hands. This is going to be a big year for him to kind of see what he could be, because he really could be one of the 2 or 3 most targeted players here and emerge as like a Travis Kelce type of player. I think there's a small margin of him that has that type of upside. He is a very good athlete. We just haven't really seen the, I guess, big time playmaking instincts from George Kittle, but he's a very good blocker as well. So I think I'm a little higher on Kittle, but then you really don't have anyone after him. Garrett Selleck, Cole Hukatini, Cole Wick, whatever. They need more weapons here, simply put. But that's the beauty of having what I'm projecting in Jimmy Garoppolo, to elevate the play of guys around him. You look at Marcus Goodwin's a perfect example of a guy who really didn't do anything in Buffalo, and he comes here and could be statistically, a top 20 receiver this year. So 25th for the 49ers in terms of their receiving core. And then you look at the offensive line, underrated group here. Joe Staley, people sleeping on the fact that he's still here and kicking ass at left tackle. The interior's big question mark. They got, a combination of like busts of former first-round picks here. Laken Tomlinson and Josh Garnett, who isn't a bust yet, but just hasn't really shown out yet. So those are probably going to be the left guard and right guard. You've also got Jonathan Cooper, speaking of busts. So you got some physical talent, but need to kind of figure it out on the field there. The center, they signed Weston Richburg. Really good signing. Had a down year last year for New York, but should be able to reestablish himself with, a more consistent situation here. And then I liked the Mike McGlinchey pick. That was one of my best calls on draft day. Some people had him going in the 20s, and I was like, no, this guy is the only tackle in this class that you're comfortable rolling out there right away. He's a great athlete. Is he perfect? No, but we're living in a world where it's almost impossible to find starting tackles, and I think they got a pretty good one. Reminds me a little bit of Taylor Lewan. So I think these tackles are going to come in and be really good this year and be a big reason this team quote-unquote overachieves based on public perception. So they come in tied for 12th in terms of offensive line. Need to see those guards start to figure this out, but you got two tackles and a center. I think that's going to help the guards develop. So as a whole, this team comes in 8th in terms of offense. So really, really high expectations for the 49ers offensively. So now let's talk about this defense that many people may not really be aware of, because before Jimmy Garoppolo got there, no one was paying attention to this Niners team. And now they got some new look pieces here, so let's run through this thing. They are a 4-3 defense, by the way. We break down the front seven by run defense, pass rush, and linebacker, focusing on the coverage ability of linebackers for that grade. So let's start with run defense. They come in 21st here. They struggled against this. On the inside, you are a little weak. So I love DeForest Buckner. He was on my top 10 breakout players. I think he is going to emerge as one of the 5 to 7 best interior defensive linemen in this league very quickly this year. But then you got Earl Mitchell, Sheldon Day, DJ Jones. You might see Arik Armstead and Solomon Thomas playing some 3-tech as well, but it's not the best. And then at linebacker, helping out in the run, you do got Reuben Foster, which is great. It's probably a big reason they're 21 and not 27. But then really poor depth at linebacker. You got Malcolm Smith, Eli Harold, who's like a converted edge rusher, Dakota Watson, Brock Coyle, Corey Toomer. They do sign from the Chargers. He's a good player. And then they draft Fred Warner in the 3rd round. We'll talk more about the linebackers in a second, but as far as run D is concerned, they'll be fine. Also didn't mention Julian Taylor, 7th round pick, and Cedric Thornton. So they're really throwing resources at the position. But anyway, run D is a little diminished in terms of how I weight this thing. It's not as important in the modern NFL as pass defense, but regardless, they come in 21st. And then let's talk about pass rush. Now, this pass rush has a lot of upside. You've got DeForest Buckner here generating a lot of pressure from the inside, which is great. But as far as the edge is concerned, there's questions, because Arik Armstead and Solomon Thomas are crazy high upside 1st-round picks that I do think pan out. And I think Solomon Thomas is better suited as a 3-tech. I always, I kind of thought he was Aaron Donald-ish coming out. So we'll see if they move him back inside. They did sign Jeremiah Atuachu, so I think that's their best starting 4. We'll see if that's what they roll with. But regardless, you've got a ton of upside here, and that's why they come in 20th. If these guys all come out and reach their potential this year, we're going to be talking about a nasty front, but we've just got to see it. So then we'll get back to the linebackers here. They do come in tied for 12th here. That is highly reflective of Reuben Foster and the type of player he is as a versatile 3-down linebacker. Off the field concerns, but it seems that was all just kind of made up, or he's not getting charged for anything. Still might miss a game or 2 for suspension. I don't know. I haven't followed that situation very closely, but the point is he's going to be here, and that's big. But behind him, like I said, really no one you're too excited about. I would keep an eye on Corey Toomer, and then they draft Fred Warner in the 3rd round, a very raw freak athlete out of BYU. He could end up starting here and become kind of a pivot point for this defense, taking that big step up to get another linebacker in there next to Reuben Foster. I think that's the plan down the road. Just don't know if he's going to reach that in his first season as a raw rookie. So lastly here, we talk about the secondary. Now they come in tied for 26th, and that might actually seem low for a secondary that has Richard Sherman on it. Now, I think Sherman will be fine, but I don't consider him a shutdown corner anymore. You might hear that he's in a new scheme. Well, that's not true. This is the same scheme defensively under Rob Saleh, who was part of the Gus Bradley tree. It's the same thing. So he's going to plug right in as that press cover 3 corner, but he's at a point in his career, just like we saw, I don't like to overreact to Twitter camp videos and stuff, but we saw Marcus Goodwin just fly past Richard Sherman. So you can kind of tell you can't put him on an island with anyone with any sort of quickness or speed. He's just going to get lost. But very physical, amazing understanding of that cover 3 third and the press man situation going over there. If you're familiar with how the scheme works here and what has made the Legion of Boom so great, Richard Sherman being able to dominate that third in a cover 3 and take that side of the field just out of the game, he still probably offers a good chunk of that. But they're not going to be running cover 3, cover 4, cover 6. They're not going to be running that every play. So other than him, you got Akello Witherspoon, part of an amazing rookie cornerback class. I think he's going to be a really good player. He's definitely starting caliber already, but he's just another player on this defense that it's tough to say he can take a jump from being a starting caliber player to being a stud or a star. That's just another situation where you're projecting a lot. And then Jimmy Ward's going to be kind of the nickel corner here, along with DJ Reed, who I like. They took in the 5th round. So they're pretty good at nickel, even though they let Eric Reed go. And then at safety, it's going to be Adrian Colbert. And then Jaquisti Tart, one of the best names in the NFL, but actually had a really good year last year. And a 3rd round pick, Tavarius Moore, who could either be a safety or a corner, a versatile guy. We'll see what his role is. But a really young secondary outside of Richard Sherman and I guess Jimmy Ward. A lot of upside here. I think they're going to start to put some things together, and then maybe next season we're talking about this as a really good, top 12-ish secondary, but right now there's just too many questions. So overall, I've got the defense at 19th, so just kind of a solid defense. I do think with how I'm projecting this offense, that is going to be good enough for this team to be highly competitive this year, and they do rank tied for 10th for coach and culture. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's just amazing. Probably the best mind in football right now in terms of X's and O's. And then the culture, things are just headed in the right direction here. So now the last part here, the part you've all been waiting for, talking about this schedule and what I actually expect from this team in 2018. And for an NFC team, it's a pretty easy schedule, and it looks very nice for the 49ers, especially we saw Seattle's schedule. You got Arizona's the lowest ranked team in this division, and then we haven't done the Rams yet, but their schedule is very difficult. So it's a good outlook here in terms of this schedule. A lot of easy games at home. They do have some tough games to start at Minnesota, at Kansas City, but if they can get one of those, look out. Those are going to be huge games in terms of can this team win the division, I think. You got to go to the Chargers. I gave them that win. It's not really a home field advantage. There's actually probably going to be more 49ers fans at that game than Chargers fans. And then I've got them splitting games 5 through 8 there. And then as you can see here, really nice stretch down the second half of the season, which is big. You got Oakland and the Giants at home. Gave them a win there. Got them going to Tampa, picking up a W. That team's probably going to be reeling at that point. At Seattle, gave them a loss, beating Seattle 2 weeks later at home. And then they got Denver and Chicago at home, wrapping up the year with a loss at the Rams. So really, compared to a lot of schedules here, not a whole lot of indecision. So I've got this team going 10-6 with a win range of about 10. Maybe they could pick up one at Minnesota or at Kansas City. Who knows? But I definitely think when all is said and done, they're going to benefit from this schedule. And when we finish these deep dives, we will do a speed round prediction for every team where I'll actually plant my flag, get a firm prediction from me for these teams as opposed to these kind of safe win range type of things. So looking forward to that. Again, guys, like the video if you enjoyed. Check out my Twitter at TFG_football. Niners fans, hit me up in the comments below. Let me know what your expectations are for this team this year. So cheers as always, guys. We'll see you next time.